Hello, painting. In this video, I'm going to talk about how we start a painting once we have our thumbnail sketches done. So this video, I will use the monochromatic painting as the example, but it could apply to any painting. There's two main ways to start a painting once you have your composition set. One is to paint, or to only paint, to never let pencil touch the canvas, which is the old-fashioned traditional way. Especially if you were doing oil painting, you would never let pencil touch canvas. The other way I'm going to show you is to actually draw your image on paper and then transfer it to the canvas, the same way that we were tracing our template shapes for our color value scales or our color wheels. So whichever method you choose, first you need to decide which of your compositions from your thumbnail sketch you're going to do. And it's helpful to grid it out. Here I've used red color pencil to create a grid just so that it's easier for you to see. Also, I didn't want to draw directly on my original thumbnail sketch, so I used tracing paper to make a copy. Also notice that when I originally did this, I did use some shading because I knew that this was going to be a monochromatic painting, so I needed to be aware of what the values are. But for this, since I'm just using this as a guide for myself to get this image on my canvas, I don't need to trace the shading. I just traced the line art. All right. So the first method I'm going to show you is the old-fashioned way, where you only have paint. So I cheated a little bit. I drew just quadrants. I drew crosshairs on this canvas panel. This canvas panel is proportional to my thumbnail sketch. My thumbnail sketch was 3x4. This is a 9x12 canvas, so they are proportional. And this way I can use this basic guide to help me place my objects. Now, because we're not going to be drawing the objects with pencil at all in this method, it's really good to know like the general values. So again, I can look at the shading to decide that the tumbler is going to be the darkest. I'll use a shade for the tumbler. I'll probably use the flat color for the high heel shoe tape dispenser, and I'll use a tint for the pencil case. And so that you can see those things in color. This is the tumbler. This is technically a tint of red violet, but let's ignore that. Let's just pretend it's regular pink, which is a tint of red. My high heel shoe tape dispenser, and this pencil case with these fun little stars on it. Rather than using pure red, though, I am using magenta. This is a red that when you add white to it turns more towards a hot pink. So that's why I chose this color to start instead. All right, so if I study my thumbnail sketch for a minute, I see again how much space each of these objects take up. So I can use my crosshair guides to get something down on the canvas. It's also okay to water down the paint a lot. And what we're going to do is we're just going to try to get the basic shape of things in. So for example, this high heel shoe, I noticed that it's above the midline this way and past the midline that way. So I'm just going to kind of paint this general shape. I'm not worried about details right now. I can fix all of that later. Right now, I just want to get the general shape of this shoe on the canvas. And I'm using the pure color with a lot of water, but it is still just the pure color. All right. So I kind of get that. And if you water down your paint like this, you can still see the crosshairs. We're going to be layering a lot of paint on top of this, so don't worry if it looks a little janky. It doesn't matter right now. So there I have the general shape of my shoe. I'm going to get that pencil case in next. Actually, I probably should have done the background first, but that's okay. So next I have to mix. I'm going to mix a tint real quick. So I take some of my pure white, wipe the palette knife off before I dip into the pure magenta. And because I'm going to be watering this down, I don't need that much paint. I like to clean the palette knife off first. I'm going to dip the brush in a little bit more water, again, to get it fairly watered down. In this box, I see that it goes kind of like this from the high heel shoe. And it's taking up nearly this whole side. So again, not worried about details. I'm definitely not painting those little stars in now. That's going to come much later. I should have put a newspaper under my canvas to protect the dust from stray paint. All right, so I'm looking at my thumbnail sketch, and boom, I've got the whole, oh wait, it's kind of slanted. I've got about the whole pencil case in. All right, and now I just need to get the tumbler as well as the background, and there is a table. There's a little table line. It's kind of hard to see, but it's there. So now I'm going to mix a shade. I'll grab some of my pure magenta. I'll just mix it into this black that I have right here. That might be too dark. Oh yeah, that's way too dark for what I need right now.
But see how this is looking kind of violet, so again, that's why I'm using magenta instead of pure red. The pure red would look more like burgundy with the black mixed in. Alright, this is better. This is better for the base color for the tumbler.
Alright, and again, I like to clean the palette knife with the brush and the watered down paint. So again, the tumbler, I see that it's taking up the middle section, and it's got a round top, so I can try to just lightly paint that in, and it overlaps with the pencil case. Here I'm being a little careful not to go into the high heel shoe too much, but again, it doesn't really matter because it's not exactly what's called an underpainting, but it's kind of similar to that. All right, there's also a little negative space between the curvy part of the tumbler and the pencil case, but again, this isn't going to show in our final painting. All right, so there, I've got my tumbler. There was some tape, the tape in the dispenser. I'm going to make it pure white in the painting, but for now I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to use that same light tint that I used for the pencil case. I'm going to use it for the little base of the shoe, little circular base. And if I go into the high heel shoe a little bit, again, it doesn't really matter. This is about getting our image down fairly quickly and accurately on the canvas and thinking about our values, thinking about our tints and shades. I've got some base shapes down, I've got some colors down, and I don't really have too much paint. I'm sorry, I don't have too much pencil on my canvas other than my guidelines. Once you have this, you can start using your tints and shades to model or render the shapes, but we probably want to wait for this to dry just a little bit. So for now, I'm going to leave this like this. So again, this is the method where you don't draw on the canvas with pencil first. All right, now I'm going to show you what to do if you do want to have a pencil drawing on your canvas. What we never, ever want to do is take a canvas and start drawing on it. We don't want to do that for multiple reasons. The main reason is simply that you can't really erase. If you draw a line on here and it's wrong, you can't actually erase it. You can try, but you're going to end up with a smudge. You're going to end up with eraser shavings on your canvas. It's going to be hard to cover that, especially if your painting has light colors. So it's better to just not do that. So what do we do instead to get a pencil drawing on here? What we do instead is we blow up our thumbnail sketch to the actual size of the canvas. So again, this is a 3x4 thumbnail sketch. This is a 9x12 piece of paper. It's the same size as the canvas. And I use the grid to help me blow this image up. On here, I did all the green lines in red color pencil, but here I didn't want too much color pencil getting in my way as I drew. So I did the other green lines. I'm sorry, I did the other grid lines with regular pencil so they wouldn't get in my way. Also notice that even though I had this thumbnail sketch to go off, I didn't try to draw by the box. I used the grid as a guideline, but then I still drew like whole shapes. So for example, the tape inside of the tape dispenser, even though we can't see the bottom of it because it's inside of the shoe, I still drew this whole ellipse. An ellipse is a foreshortened circle. I still drew the whole shape because it's easier to draw a correct ellipse if you draw the whole thing versus trying to just draw an arc. Same thing with this, the circular base of the shoe here. I actually had a scrap piece of paper over here so that I could completely draw that whole shape. All right. So then what we do, once we have this, we need to be able to transfer this image to the canvas. And the way we do that is just the way we have been tracing and transferring our templates. I need to get a light pad. All right. So I have my light pad. I flip my drawing over. And you can just go like this with your pencil. Actually, let me get another piece of paper. I want to protect the light pad from graphite coming off of the drawing from this side. So you can get a pencil and just trace, press down pretty hard. I prefer to use a graphite stick so that I can make a thick graphite line relatively quickly. And in places where I have multiple small lines together, because the graphite stick is so big, I can get it in one stroke. So again, as you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're pressing down fairly hard so there's going to be enough graphite on this side of the paper to transfer down. Painting is also about thinking in layers and thinking at least one step ahead of where you're at. So one thing that I'm not going to bother tracing right now is the little stars on the pencil case. I can transfer them to the canvas later once I have the true base color for the pencil case down, but I don't need to worry about them right now. So I'm just going to get the outer contours. All right, I'm pretty sure I got everything. I got everything I need to trace. Okay, so now I can turn my light pad off. Set that aside. Get my canvas. Flip my image back over. And you want to tape the paper to the canvas so that it doesn't move around on you. Now my paper is ever so slightly bigger. It's like 1/16 of an inch bigger than the canvas, but a difference that small isn't going to hurt us. All right, make sure it's nice and flat. and then we start tracing. You gotta press down pretty hard. If you're not sure of what areas you have and have not traced, you can trace with a pen instead of a pencil so that it's easier to see the difference between the traced and untraced portions. I hope there's an easy way for me to speed up this video so I can speed up this part. Now once you get a good amount of tracing done, a good habit is to try to lift the paper a little bit to check. Yep, it's transferring maybe a little too well. I think the graphite stick might have been too dark. Maybe use pencil instead. Or you know what? I'm just going to ease up on my pressure. Now the downside to doing this is that a lot of times people become afraid to paint over the pencil lines. And so they end up with these paintings that have these random gaps. Like there's just these gaps of white canvas showing where they have been too afraid to just paint over the pencil lines. And I will say that's one of the benefits of learning to paint the other way. Even though it may feel very uncomfortable at first, even though you may feel like what you're doing is not good, even though it may in actuality be not good, I do still think that it's the better way to learn how to paint. If you're serious about painting, if you're serious about art, I would say that you should avoid doing this. But if this is your only art class since elementary school, and you're probably not going to do this ever again in your life, or at least you're not going to do it seriously, maybe you're going to just do it as a hobby, going to go to painting with a twist every now and then this is fine. Another potential drawback to this is that maybe you don't develop the skill of thinking in layers, which is what you want to have as a painter. Thinking 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 steps ahead and thinking in layers. Not to say that it's impossible, you might still develop the skill, but it's a potential drawback. But if you know about it, and again, if you're aiming to be a more serious painter or artist, then if you're aware of the drawbacks, you can avoid them. All right. I hope you can hear the pencil.
Good evening, CC. It is now 5:32, and our after-school programs are now ending. Please make your way to South Lobby to exit.
I kind of wonder. Oh, no, I did have right there. Okay. All right. I will say, folks, maybe let's not use the graphite stick. This is way too dark. Or let's use a lighter graphite stick. Okay. I'm going to remove the tape on one end only because maybe I missed the spot, so I don't want to remove the tape completely. So I'm just going to do this. Okay. I missed a little line right here. I missed this line. And this might have just been there was enough graphite down there. All right. So that's pretty good. This is enough. This is enough for me to start. All right, I can even just kind of extend some lines that aren't showing. And now I can do the same process that I had before. I already have my colors mixed. Because I have this guy down, I can water it down a little less. Because I have this, and although I still like to water it down, just at least some. Now let's see if the graphite stick makes a big mess. Nope, that's pretty nice. Okay, so with the paint watered down, you can paint over whole areas. And still see the pencil underneath, even though I'm painting over the pencil, or the graphite rather, that wasn't a pencil. I can still see underneath, just enough to help me get the actual shape. And actually, I'm just going to go ahead and paint to the tape. And again, if we go over some lines a bit at this stage, it doesn't matter. Need more water. All right. Yeah, I think I like the dark background better. But again, with using the very watered down paint, this is a decision that we can try it out very quickly. because it doesn't take a long time to move the paint around when it's, you know, this watery. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that instead. All right, so once you have this, again, we can wait for this to dry, and then we can go in and more fully render different things. So usually it takes 3 values to make something look 3-dimensional. A highlight, a shadow, and the base tone as a general rule. So let me go back to the one where I just painted straight on the canvas. Should be a little drier now. So now that it's like this, again, I can come in and start painting details on top. So for example, the flap of the pencil case, I'm pretty sure I want to use the pure color for that. So I can start drying my brush more because I want the next layer of paint to be thicker so that it covers this first layer. And I should have my thumbnail sketch next to me, but I don't. So I'm just gonna kind of wing it. Pretty sure the shape was something like this. And actually, I want to use the pure color for the top of the box. So the top of the box of this pencil case is lit. It's lit from above. So I actually need to use a shade of this color on the flap on the bottom. And I'm noticing by the way the paint is moving that it's too wet. So again, I'm gonna try to squeeze as much water out of my brush as I can. And because this is still a relatively early stage of the painting, and because the paint is wet, I can grab, well, I was gonna try to grab a little bit of that shade that I had mixed earlier, but there's just not enough of it there. So I'm gonna have to mix some more. Oh, I did not mean to go this dark. Well, I'm nearing the end of the video, so it's okay if I kind of waste the paint by doing that, getting a whole bunch of that red. That's still a lot darker than I wanted it to be. I can put this into the tumbler. I'm gonna take just a smidgen of this, put it over here, wipe. More red. And we want to be careful, folks. I've got a tint right there, right next to this area where I'm mixing right now. We don't want to mix our tints and our shades, because if we mix our tints and our shades, do you remember what we get? We get a tone. We get gray. And we don't want tones in this painting. Alright, so I'm going to come in with this darker, with this shade. Trying to pick up as much of this paint as possible because this is still really wet. When you see that the paint keeps moving around on you, like it's doing right now, you're gonna have to wait for it to dry. Yeah, because it blended too much. If you're bold, I'm gonna go ahead and use that much darker shade, especially because again, I see how wet this paint still is. So it's actually possible to mix on the canvas directly. When you were doing your swatches with Bristol board, I said don't try to mix on the Bristol board. The Bristol board can't take it, but the canvas can. Alright. Okay, and it keeps moving around, so that tells me I need to leave this area alone. I need to leave it alone for a bit, but I could come in and maybe add some of the shadow on the tumbler. It's kind of darker right here. And you can still paint kind of sloppily at this stage. All right, let's see how I've separated the lid from the body of the tumbler. And I could even come into this very light tint I had mixed earlier, and I could put it in for the highlight. Let it mix. Ah, I just made a tone. I just said what I told you not to do. Ah, I just did what I told you not to do. Okay, but again, it's fine because this is early stage of the painting. If you're feeling like it, you could even blend with your finger. All right, see, it's starting to look a bit dimensional. All right, well, I think you get the point. So we just keep going. Again, whether you are going to do this the hardcore, old-fashioned oil painting G sort of way and not draw on the canvas with a pencil, or you draw on the canvas with a pencil. Either way, I hope you get the point. Bye.